Hello students, today we are going to deal the next part of our topic. We have already learned about the metallurgy part. In the definition we saw the meaning of ores, minerals, and again in the metallurgical processes we saw the steps, and again we saw after that Illingham diagram definition, features of Illingham diagram, and after that we are going to deal about the relative efficiency of carbon and carbon monoxide as an what reducing agent. As we discussed in the Illingham diagram, isn't it delta G naught versus T means temperature? These values we have already discussed in the Illingham diagram. We come to know that there are some compounds which are there, they can be act as a good reducing agent at a particular temperature, isn't it? For that we have chosen over here carbon and carbon monoxide. Let me discuss over here. Here in the first reaction, carbon and carbon monoxide, what about it? Here in the first reaction, the volume of CO2 produced, the volume of CO2 produced is equal to how much amount of O2 can be used over here. Getting my point? The volume of CO2 produced is equal to volume of O2 used. It means what? How much amount of oxygen molecule you are used over here, that many amount of carbon dioxide going to form over here. It means what there is no change in what delta S value. Delta S nothing but entropy. There is no change in the delta S, isn't it? There is no change in the delta S value. So if delta S is no change, it means that there is no change in the delta G value. Delta G also no change, and because of that our first reaction which will be there, the graph which will be there, that is nothing but straight line graph. This is our straight line graph, isn't it? Straight line. What I told over here, in the first reaction carbon and oxygen molecule when going to react, they will act as a reducing agent in presence of oxygen carbon. The formation of carbon dioxide will take place. Here volume of CO2, how much going to form, the how many amount of oxygen used over here. So there is a no change in the entropy, no change in the Gibbs free energy. So graph which will be obtained over here, graph is what? Straight line. The graph which I have obtained over here, that is straight line graph, isn't it? Now the next part, that is second reaction. Let me consider here second reaction. Which is the second reaction? 2C means 2 carbon molecules of O2, isn't it? 2C plus O2 gives rise to 2CO. 2 carbon monoxide will going to form, isn't it? So in this case, when 2C plus O2 reacts with over here, the formation of 2 carbon monoxide will going to form. Now just observe this amount of oxygen and amount of carbon monoxide will going to form over here. Just to see, 2 moles of carbon monoxide is produced for every 1 mole of O2, isn't it? What I have told here, 2 moles of carbon monoxide is formed for every 1 mole of O2. So what will happen over here? For every 2 moles of carbon monoxide, 1 mole of oxygen required, isn't it? So here what will happen? Randomness happen, means entropy will going to change, that is delta S become positive in nature. And if delta S is positive in nature, what about the delta G? Delta G is nothing but increasingly negative in nature. Delta G is increasingly negative in nature, and as a result, if delta G is increasingly negative in nature, so graph which will be obtained over here, that is downward. Graph which will be obtained here is how it can be obtained? Slope of the graph downward, isn't it? The slope of the graph is obtained, that is downward. Now the third reaction, just to see the third reaction, which is that this one, 2C plus O2 gives rise to, I will write here 2O2. 2C plus 2O2. What gives rise to 2CO2? Isn't it? Whether it is balanced now? Just see 2 carbon molecules, oxygen 4, 2 to the 4 oxygen. In this reaction, again what is going to form? 2 volume of CO2 is produced for every 3 volume, for every 4 volume of the reactant. Isn't it? This oxygen are 4, this carbon dioxides are 2 molecules. So what is there? 2 molecules or 2 moles of CO2 formed for every 4 mole of O2, isn't it? These are 4. So what is there? Otherwise you can also tell for every 2 mole of O2. So what will happen over here? For every 2 moles of CO2, what will go to delta S, which will be there? That is delta S, that is negative in nature, and delta G, which will be there, that is positive in nature. If it is positive in nature, the graph, slope of the graph which will be there, that is upside in the nature. See, slope of the graph which will be obtained, that is upside in the nature. So what will be the conclusion based on this all? So what is the conclusion is, at this stage, the graph delta G naught versus T curves, okay, intersect with one another. This is an intersect point, okay. The curves of the graph delta G naught versus T, they will intersect with one another at a particular point, isn't it? This is an intersection point of the particular graph. Our temperature 710 degrees Celsius. 710 degrees Celsius. And at this particular temperature, below this 710 degrees Celsius, the value of formation of CO2 is produced. Below of this 710 degrees Celsius, the value of formation of CO2 is favorable. Below of this 710 degrees Celsius temperature, delta G values which are there for formation of CO2 is favorable, and delta G which will be there for formation of CO2 is what? Delta G is positive. What I have told? Below 710 degrees Celsius, the value for delta G for CO2 is favorable, and for that delta G is positive in nature, and above of the 710 delta G value, this above of the 710 delta G value for formation of CO2 which will be there, for formation of above this particular delta, formation of delta G value is negative for formation of what? CO, carbon monoxide, and here carbon dioxide. It means what? The efficiency of carbon as a reducing agent increases with rising temperature. What I have told? The efficiency of carbon and carbon monoxide as a reducing agent increases as we increase temperature. This is a particular conclusion of this particular graph. Let me explain once again this all part we are discussing here. Relative efficiency of carbon and carbon monoxide as a reducing agent. Here we have plotted one graph, delta G naught versus T. This is a graph. Here we have concluded mainly 3 reactions, C plus O2, 2C plus O2, 2C plus 2O2. Based on these 2 reactions. The first reaction, how much volume of CO2 is product, how much found? Reactant of O2 used over here. So there is no change in the delta S, no change in the delta G. So graph will be present over there, that is straight line graph. This is our first reaction. In the second reaction, delta S entropy is positive, delta G which is increasingly negative in nature, but it is negative in nature, delta G. So slope of the graph which will be obtained over here, that is downward in the nature. And in the third reaction, delta S is negative and delta G is positive. So slope of the graph which will be happen over there, that is upward direction. And the conclusion part, what we have discussed or what we have studied means, a particular point which will be reached where the intersect of the graph which is present over here, at a particular temperature, that is 710 degrees Celsius. Here below the 710 degrees Celsius, delta G values are favorable for the formation of CO2. Here delta G is positive, and above of this particular 710 degrees Celsius, here delta G values are negative for the formation of carbon monoxide. So what we have concluded based on this, the relative efficiency of carbon and carbon monoxide as a reducing agent increases as we rise in the temperature. It means what? As we increase the temperature itself. Okay, I hope so you have understood this particular part, because many times they have asked this question for 2 marks part A. They have asked about the relative efficiency of carbon and carbon monoxide as a reducing agent. At that time we have to discuss these many things. Okay. Now let's study the next part of our topic. We will discuss about again Elingham diagram. So reducing agent for chromic oxide and zinc oxide. Next part of our topic, reducing agent for chromic oxide. What should I write over here? Whether I should write Cr2 or simply chromic oxide and zinc oxide. Okay, let me study about this. As we know here from Elingham diagram, at a normal temperature, from Elingham diagram we already know that from Elingham diagram we have already discussed over here the delta G value which will be there. From Elingham diagram we already know that the delta G value is more negative. Delta G value which is there, it is more negative for formation of delta G value is more negative for formation of aluminium oxide Al2O3 as we compare to Cr2O3. What is Cr2O3? Chromic oxide. This indicates that what I have told over here from Elingham diagram, it is evident that, or it is concluded that the delta G value which will be there, it is more negative for formation of Al2O3 as compared to what? Cr2O3. So what it indicates? This aluminium has more tendency or more attraction towards what? Oxygen. This indicates that aluminium has more affinity towards what? Oxygen. Isn't it? What I have told over here from Elingham diagram, it is evident that this particular aluminium which is there, it is having more delta G negative value for formation of Al2O3 as compared to Cr2O3. Why this one? Because this particular aluminium has more affinity towards what? Oxygen. So formation of Al2O3 is spontaneous. I have already told. Itself it can be happened. There is no any extra force is required. This is, we call it as a what? Spontaneous. Then that of what? Cr2O3. Then Cr2O3. It is non-spontaneous. Okay. So Al2O3 is more stable. So this one is what? Al2O3 is more stable as compared to what? Cr2O3. Al2O3 is more stable as you compare to the Cr2O3. So aluminium powder can be used as a reducing agent for Cr2O3. So aluminium powder, this particular aluminium powder can be used as a reducing agent. Just see here, Cr2O3 plus 2Al. What we are going to form here? Al2O3 plus 2Cr. What we have discussed over here, just to see, I'll explain once again regarding this all part. Here reducing agent for chromic oxide and zinc oxide. In that first we will deal about this chromic oxide. From minimum diagram it is evident that delta G value is more negative for the formation of Al2O3 as you compare to the Cr2O3. Why? Because aluminium has more affinity towards the oxygen as you compare to the Cr2O3. So the formation of Al2O3 is spontaneous than that of what? Cr2O3. So aluminium oxide is a more stable element. So this particular aluminium can be used as a reducing agent for chromium. So this is an Cr2O3 plus 2Al gives us to Al to aluminium oxide plus 2Cr, and this particular process we also call it as an aluminothermite process. This process is called as aluminothermite process. Okay. Got the point? Reducing agent for chromic oxide, we are using which reducing agent? That is aluminium itself as a reducing agent we have used over here. Why? Because it shows more affinity towards what? Oxygen. So what? Here aluminium can be used as a to reduce this particular chromium we got over there, chromium itself. Now the next term which will be there, that is nothing but zinc. Again for the zinc, which reducing agent we supposed to use? I have already told about the zinc, which reducing agent, that is nothing but coke, is nothing but what? Carbon is an only reducing agent we can use for what? Zinc. We already saw about the chromium. Now we are going to see about what? Zinc. From minimum diagram, we already know that delta G value which will be there, it is very much negative for formation of CO as compared to what? For formation of CO as compared to what? ZnO. Why this will happen? Again the question will arise. Okay, it indicates that what? This particular carbon has more affinity. Carbon has more affinity towards what? Carbon has more affinity towards oxygen. Isn't it? From minimum diagram it is already concluded that delta G value is more negative for the formation of carbon monoxide as compared to the zinc oxide. Why? Because carbon has more affinity towards what? Oxygen than that of zinc. So formation of CO is spontaneous than that of what? ZnO. Formation of CO, that is carbon monoxide, is spontaneous as compared to the ZnO. So CO is more stable. As compared to what? ZnO. So we have to use what? Zinc for the reducing agent. For zinc we have to use what? Carbon. What we will get? We will get here our zinc plus CO. Isn't it? Got the term? Reducing agent for chromic oxide we have used aluminium, and for the zinc we have used coke or carbon. See, from minimum diagram it is evident that the delta G value is more negative for the formation of carbon monoxide as compared to the zinc oxide. Carbon is show more affinity towards the oxygen. So the formation of carbon monoxide is spontaneous, and so that carbon monoxide is more stable as we compare to the zinc. So carbon can be used as a reducing agent for zinc. Okay, this is about today's part. Now the next term which will be there, that is nothing but we will going to deal, that is metallurgy part, metallurgy of nickel. Just to see metallurgy of nickel. Okay, next we will going to deal, that is nothing but metallurgy of nickel. So metallurgy of nickel, before going to deal, let me see the history of this particular part. So what is the history? The first time they have used nickel in the China for the preparation of what? Coins. So in the year 1751, the Axel Friedrich Cronstedt first time isolated nickel from its ore. Okay, this particular scientist first time isolated nickel from its ore. So what are the properties of this particular nickel? The nickel, which is nothing but which is hard silver white metal. What is the consistency? It is very much of hard color, silvery white in color. So this is one of the metal. You have already know. This is one of the hard silver white metal. So next property, transition metal. No doubt transition metal S, P, D, F. In between the S and P, the D block elements which are there showing both the property S and P, we used to call transition. No doubt it is one of the metal. So this is one of the transition metal present in the D block itself, having its atomic number how much? 28. Atomic number of the nickel 28 and atomic mass is 58.71. So it is one of the transition metal having its atomic number 28 and atomic mass 58.71. So it is malleable in nature, it is ductile in nature and corrosive resistant. It means what? When you keep in the open air in the rainy season, it does not happen corrosion over here. Corrosive resistant. Ductile and malleable. When you put a hammer, it can be form an easy sheet. You already know the some electrical wires in that the malleable metals of our what we used to call copper and all. How they are malleable and ductile in nature. The same way we can give easily shape to this particular metal, malleable and ductile, and they are corrosive resistant in the nature. So it can be exist. No doubt it will be exist the magnetic property, but when below the 345 degrees Celsius, below this particular temperature only it can be show its magnetic property. Okay, above that or in the normal temperature it won't show its magnetic property. Magnetic property, it can be attract towards the first magnetic property. Many more magnetic properties are there, but in that is one of the magnetic property. It can be shown at what temperature? 355 degrees Celsius temperature. It can be shown its magnetic property. So it can be used as an alloy for the formation of what? Stainless steel. Alloy, one or more metals for the purpose of strength. They can be mixed and they can be form a different element. We used to call it as an what? Alloy. So here this nickel can be used as alloy for the formation of what? Stainless steel. Isn't it? These are the some properties about this. But nickel, our metallurgy we are going to do, that is nickel. So next part which will be there, that is nothing but occurrence. Where it can be actually occur? It can be occur. It is 22nd most abundant element in the whole world, whole universe. 22nd most abundant element and 7th most abundant transition metal. 7th, the number they have got gave here, that is 7th most abundant transition element. Next, ores means where the impure form of nickel can be obtained. First ore, generalite, okay, they have sometimes pronounced it is generalite. Okay, just see here which are that ore, that is this NiMg6Si4O OH8. I think it is not seeable. Si4OH8. Okay, this is our generalite. This ore can be present in which countries? Cuba and Finland most abundantly can be present over there. So next, pentandite. This particular pentandite ore which will be there, that is NiFe9S8. So it can be present in which countries? Canada and Africa. Mostly they are present over there. This about their ores. Sometimes you have to know about the ores of this particular nickel. NiMg6Si4OH8, NiFe9S8. Okay, they are present ore in along with the impure form. So these are the formulas of ores are available. So now the next part we will going to deal, that is nothing but extraction of nickel by Morse process. The next part now we will going to deal, that is nothing but metallurgy. In the metallurgy of nickel, there is extraction of nickel by Mons process. This particular process we also call it as what? Carbonyl process also. Why? I will tell you afterwards. See, this particular Mons process, in the year 1899, the scientist Ludwig Mohn first time gave this particular process for the extraction of nickel. So in this process, the carbonyl is a very much important, the carbonyl part which is very much important, because this is only one ingredient we have to remove afterwards, we have to give in the excess form. So we also call it as a carbonyl process. Here mainly we are having the three steps, which are those. In the first step, here nickel oxides, nickel which is present in the oxide form, reacted with water gas CO plus H2. Okay, reacted with water gas. They actually reacted with hydrogen only, but in presence of carbon monoxide, water gas at 200 degrees Celsius to remove oxygen and impure nickel. So how? When NiO, nickel oxides, react with H2 at 200 degrees Celsius in presence of carbon monoxide, this is nothing but water gas, to give impure nickel and H2O. This is first step. What it did over there? Nickel oxide reacted with water gas, NiO plus H2 in presence of CO at 200 degrees Celsius. We will get impure nickel. That is, we will get nickel, but it is again in the impure form, which again containing some gases plus H2O. Now, impure nickel we have got over here, which is there. It is reacted with excess of carbon monoxide at 50 to 60 degrees Celsius to form nickel tetracarbonyl. So, impure nickel plus this carbon excess of carbon monoxide at 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, we will get here nickel tetracarbonyl. Nickel tetracarbonyl. Okay, this is our nickel tetracarbonyl. This is in the second step. What we have did in the second step? Nothing. Simply impure nickel we have took and we have heated in excess of carbon monoxide at a temperature 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. We will get our nickel tetracarbonyl. And in the third step, nickel tetracarbonyl, when we have heated to remove the excess of carbon monoxide, we will get our pure nickel and carbon monoxide. Let me tell once again, this all process, extraction of nickel by Mons process. In 1899, Ludwig Mohn first time gave this process. This process also we call it as a carbonyl process, where nickel oxide get converted into the pure nickel. So it can be done in the three steps. In the first step, when nickel oxide reacted with water gas in 200 degrees Celsius temperature, and we will get the impure nickel, that is NiO plus H2. We will get the pure nickel plus H2. In the second step, the impure nickel which will be there when it reacted with the excess of carbon monoxide at 50 to 60 degrees Celsius to form nickel tetracarbonyl. Okay, so what about this 50 to 60 degrees Celsius reacted with carbon monoxide to form nickel tetracarbonyl? Again, we have to remove that tetracarbonyl. We need impure nickel. Again, we have heated to 20 to 250 degrees Celsius temperature. We will get our nickel and carbon monoxide just evolved out. This is about the Mons process. Okay. Consider nickel in the Mons process when it reacts with carbon monoxide gas, that is nothing but water gas, at a temperature in the form of Kelvin itself, 330 to 350 Kelvin. The nickel get converted into nickel tetracarbonyl in the second step, and when that nickel tetracarbonyl vapors heated at 450 to 470 Kelvin, nickel tetracarbonyl get converted into pure nickel, that is nickel pellets, and carbon monoxide get evolved over there. And this particular process we used to call as Mons process of refining.